Hello, it's Dave here from Alphacool, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Alphacool Apex 2000 watt heat gun. This comes with an LCD display and a load of goodies, so let's go through them. The gun is product number 10178 at alphacool.com. Inside the box is an instruction manual that comes with not one but 2 pages of warnings. This is because heat guns get hot, and quite often people forget this. Not me, of course, I'm practically perfect, and I'm obviously not that stupid. Honest. As well as the instruction booklet, there are a bunch of additional nozzles that are included that ensures the heat gun can be used for multiple purposes. There's a wide nozzle that allows you to spread the heat more. There's a nozzle that acts as a heat reflector, curving the heat back on itself, and there's also a nozzle that's designed to ensure the heat is directed into a particular spot. Now, let's have a look at the more interesting part, the actual Alphacool Apex Heat Gun. As with our previous heat guns, this is a rather pretty sky blue that stands out when you're hunting for it in the garage. It seems the heat gun has been brought up in a good home with a good family, as it's learned how to stand up on its own 3 feet. This allows you hands-free use, which makes it especially useful when bending hard loud tubing. The 3 feet are made out of rubber to make sure they don't scratch any surfaces and to keep it stable. The main power switch is on the back of the handle, making it easy to turn on with your thumb, and there's a soft grip on the front of the handle too. The soft grip's more of a foam, and it gives a nice feeling if you give it a stroke. This shiny silver part gets very hot. Don't touch this if the heat gun's been on. The heat gun currently ships with an EU style plug, so it will not natively fit into the over-engineered, yet incredibly safe, UK style plug. In fact, it won't fit into any other inferior to the UK standard plugs either. In the future this is likely to change if there's demand for it, but for now we'll either have to use an adapter, which works perfectly fine, or you'll have to have a qualified electrician change the plug to the one you desire. Do make the note though that changes to the plug will void the warranty. Now that we have the heat gun plugged in and we've started an international plug socket fight, let's turn it on and bend some tubing. The first job is to turn on the main power switch that's located on the back of the handle. When the handle shows off, the heat gun is turned off, and when the handle shows on, the heat gun is turned on. Once the heat gun is blowing, you can press the on-off button on the bank of buttons on the top. This is the leftmost button and simply gives you full control over the heat gun. The button on the right determines the strength of the air that has blown out the heat gun. It's got 5 strength settings that you continuously scroll through by pressing the button multiple times. This is shown on the display also. Pressing the plus button, or the button at the top of the button cluster, increases the temperature. The Alphacool heat gun can go to a temperature of 650 degrees Celsius, which is just over 1200 degrees freedom units. The desired temperature is on the right side of the display, and the current temperature is on the left side of the display. This is in real time, so that's how fast the heat gun gets to 650 degrees. If you press the negative button, you can go as low as 80 degrees Celsius, which is around 175 Fahrenheit. Once you've finished using the heat gun, you can press the on-off button on the top of the gun again. This will keep the fan inside of the gun active, allowing for any excess heat to dissipate until you turn off the sliding button on the handle. Now that the heat gun is ready to the temperature that we desire, we can heat up some tubing and get it bent. Doing this is just the same as with any other heat gun, however you do have more control over the heat and the temperature. First, we put the bending cord into the tubing. We're using some nice 13mm satin acrylic tubing, article number 18510. I have the heat gun set at 650 degrees here, as I've bent hundreds of tubes in the past, and I feel fairly confident that I know when it will be ready to bend the tubing. If you're new to hardline tubing however, try starting at a lower temperature, as although it will take longer, it will give you a large window of error and ensures you don't bubble any tubing by overheating. It's better to be safe than sorry. When heating up the tubing, keep it a good 5 cm away from the heat gun. Heating it up too close will cause damage to the tubes and it will look horrible. We're going to be heating up the point at which we want to bend the tubing, as well as a good few centimetres either side. We don't just want to focus on one position. Keep rotating the tube, as well as moving it side to side above the heat gun opening until it starts to get soft. We're ultimately going to let the tube bend itself with just a little bit of help from us. To get the best results, it really is a game of patience. You could rush it and try and do it faster by moving the tubing closer to the heat gun, or by not rotating or moving the tubing as much. This usually leads to less desirable results and more tube wastage however, so just hang in there. Acrylic tubing does take a few seconds longer than PETG as well, as it needs to get up to temperature. After a while, the tube will start bending under its own volition. This is when you don't want to rush it. Don't try and bend it now, give it a few more seconds on the heat. You want the whole bend radius to have a good temperature before you start actually manually bending. Once you feel that the tube is soft and ready, you can start making the bend. I usually do this above the heat gun still, ensuring that the bend stays hot and keeping it rotated so it stays uniform. Usually, I would now step away from the heat gun whilst I held the tube in place until it cooled down and the angle was set. Unfortunately, as I must try to hold the tube in front of the camera, I have to try to hold onto both ends of the tube as well as moving the heat gun out of the way. 3 hands would have been useful at this point. Even with just 2 hands though, I managed to move the heat gun out of the way and turn it off so it was safe. Once the angle is set in the tubing, you can remove the bending cord and admire your good work. Well, that's it for the Alphacool Apex Heat Gun. As always, be sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to our Alphacool YouTube channel, and follow us on the social media. All of the links are in the description. Ciao for now. Oh, you. Oh. Yeah, that's up.